Hello, welcome to this session on health, habit, and hygiene. I'm Rohit Massey. I'm a chief consultant with NISBA. I hope you're doing well and you've learned a lot about many things in the prior sessions. In this session, we will be talking about how health, habit, and hygiene relate to a business and how health, habit, and hygiene work together to increase productivity at workplace. The agenda points for this session will be to understand the importance and impact of sound mental health and physical health on a business and related outcomes, to ascertain effective habits for better productivity at work, to know and imply standard procedures of hygiene at the workplace. I've divided this session into three parts, and we'll be moving part by part and understanding the the three theme points in this session. Number one, health. I would like to draw your attention to something called the Preston curve. As per the definition, the Preston curve is a empirical cross-sectional relationship between life expectancy and the real per capita income of a country. I'm sure you would be familiar with the word life expectancy. In case you're not, let me help you understand this. Uh, Life expectancy is an expression or the number of years that person is expected to live for. For example, the life expectancy in our country is about 75 years, which means a person given good health conditions can live up to 75 years without getting any serious or bed or illnesses that cause bedridden, right? So this is what life expectancy is. Now, as per the Preston curve, uh, we understand that there is a direct relationship between life expectancy and the per capita income of a country or the GDP of the country. As you can see, this is a graph plotted with life expectancy being on the y-axis and GDP being on the x-axis. While the life expectancy is increasing between the years, 1960 to 2015, the GDP also of the countries are also increased. So this is not one country that has been taken into account, but many countries which have been taken into account. Now, while there is higher life expectancy in countries with GDP, higher GDP, it is it can also be interpreted like this, that where there is higher GDP, or where there is a higher life expectancy, there is also a higher GDP. Why are we talking about this? Shall form the base of this particular session, or this part of the session rather, that health plays a very important role, or plays a very crucial role, or impacts economic development of any country, right? So when I'm talking about life expectancy, I understand that you would agree with me with the fact that wherever the life expectancy is higher, the health of the people of that country is better, right? Or let's take it like this, that the health technology and the healthcare available is better. Now, wherever this is happening, wherever you talk about US, you talk about UK, wherever the healthcare facilities are better, there is better life expectancy, and therefore there is a better GDP, which is actually a study, and I was just as astonished as you are right now. जहाँ पे हायर एक लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी है, वहाँ पे हायर जीडीपी भी है, और जहाँ पे जीडीपी हायर है, वहाँ पे लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी भी हायर है. तो ये दोनों, these are two sides of the coin, that where the life expectancy is higher, the GDP is higher, and where the GDP is higher, the life expectancy is also higher. So these are two sides of the same coin. Why are we talking? As I said, this will form the basis of the entire argument that we'll be forming right now. Why is healthcare, or why is health important for the economic growth of a nation? Not only for a nation, but if we talk about you talk about it at a microscopic level, I think how is health important for any given enterprise, right? So we will be walking part by part, or little by little, understanding what is the role of many other organizations, international organizations, what is their perspective about health and economic development, and so on and so forth. I would like to highlight some statistics over here. The first that is that a study conducted in India showed that about 66.9% of the workers were absent due to health related issues. So let's say I have 10 people working over in my organization, and out of them about 7 people were absent or are absent because of health related issues. Now this is the kind of impact that health has on the productivity of any unit. So if we are talking about enterprises and businesses at a microscopic level, you can understand that, you can see that 66.9% is a very high number, right? While while when you talk about as a country, the 66.6 doesn't really come across to you as something very important. But when you talk about your own business, you can imagine if 70% of your staff is not available because of health conditions, it is all you are in a, you're in the blue waters already, right? So मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ, or what can I do in order to cope up with these such kind of situations? We'll be seeing in the further slides. The next statistic I want to highlight for you is that India recorded a total productivity of loss of $6.7 billion in the year 2012 because of cancer. Now understand, $6.7 billion in 1 year was lost because of cancer. That is one sickness that took away 6.7 billion, that caused rather a loss of 6.7 billion dollars. One sickness, 0.36% of our GDP. Now if you could probably take an account of similar diseases and kind of productivity loss that could happen, you would realize that it will be in thousands, thousands of crores of rupees, because of just sicknesses and diseases, incurable diseases. Because in 2012, I think the cure for cancer was also not very, was at a much primitive stage, right? So in such a situation, what can be done? What can we think about, or what can we do to minimize such losses? We can probably think about ideas, and think about how we can cope up with these situations. So this is one statistic. And by the way, in this case, as you can see, India stood at number 2, right next to South Africa, which again, because of cancer, lost about $1.9 billion. That is again a huge part of its economy. These are some physical ailments or diseases or issues that arise in physical health. I want to show you something that happens in mental health, or the effect of mental health. Let's be very clear about one thing, that if you take a study, or if you take an analysis about the two kind of health issues that happen, mental health and physical health, you would realize that when you talk about you talk about mental health, the impact is much higher than that of physical health, right? So depression and anxiety have a significant economic impact. The estimated cost of global economy uh, is $1 trillion per year in lost productivity. So because of anxiety and depression, the entire loss around the globe accounts or amounts up to $1 trillion. Can you imagine that? I was just as astonished as you are. This is a very high number. And what is the reason? What is the cause? Because cause for it, it's depression and anxiety. What you and when I was doing some analysis, when I was preparing this session, I realized that I read, in fact, at many points, that there are so many things that cause depression. And depression is not always latent. It's sometimes obvious, or it's not always obvious, it's sometimes latent. And even in those situations, the impact is much in the organization. Almost 25% of companies lose approximately 14% of their annual working days due to sickness. Can you imagine that? 51 days in a year are lost because of sickness. where is the profit of my organization going to go, or what is the productivity, where is the productivity of my organization going to go if 51 days of sickness happen in 1 year? Can you imagine that? That is the kind of impact sicknesses and diseases and health issues have on an organization. That is the kind of loss of productivity an organization suffers because of health conditions, poor health conditions, physical as well as mental. So this is what we are talking about. And what can we do about it is something that we always need to think about. And I would share the cycle with you that I realized, and I have studied from a lot of places, that the good worker health will relate to better productivity at work. When there's better productivity at work, there's higher business competitiveness. When there is higher business competitiveness, there is economic development and prosperity. And when there is better economic development and prosperity, or higher economic development and prosperity, there is a higher value to social well-being and health, right? So I studied the case of corona, right? I would share this with you. The COVID-19 situation has been deteriorating, or has been impactful for many of us, right? And what happens over here is that one person who is infected by the virus uh, affects the entire organization. We were in the process of signing an MOU with an organization, and while we were doing so, I got a call from the gentleman who was the spock for that organization. He told me that he will not be able to send the papers. Why? Because one person in his organization got infected, and the entire unit was shut down. The entire unit was shut down within hours. And because of that, now imagine, one unit got shut down for that particular sector. There is an automatic loss of productivity for x many number of days. Even when you see the initial few days of the COVID situation, the lockdown, there was 100%, 100% when the lockdown was 100%, and we were not going to work for, I remember, if I have not mistaken, for about 2 weeks. There was no work happening, right? We were supposed to work from home, but the productivity of many other offices had shut down, right? There were many other businesses who had shut down because they did not have clients to serve to, or they did not know where to go, right? So productivity was at a loss then and there. When there was a problem with productivity, there was also a direct impact on business competitiveness. Now when there was let's say x number of units working in an area, in a particular sector, and one unit or two units shut down completely, 100% shut down. Now what is happening? The other 8 will try to rush for the available market share. But what is happening? The entire equilibrium of business competitiveness is disturbed, and when that is disturbed, there are chances that instead of positive economic development or positive economic growth, the economic development takes, or the economic starts degrading. The economic development starts going in the negative side, right? Also, now when the economic development is impacted, the social well-being and health of an organization, of the entire country, is also impacted. I mean, I don't think there is anything new to us, given the situation we are in right now. The social well-being of so many people in the country have been impacted because of poor health and the social well-being. And between social well-being and good worker health, there is productivity at work, there is business competitiveness, there is economic development. Take the case of China in this case, right? China has lost a lot of business competitiveness. Why? Because clearly they suffered the blow first, they experienced the infection first, and because of that their business competitiveness suffered. And when the business competitiveness suffered, I don't know how much of economic loss that is suffered. But if you talk about India, India took about 500 crores of rupees per day. So that was the kind of economic loss that was happening every day in India because of lockdown. Now this was happening across the world. Not 500 crores, but probably much more than that in many countries, or lesser than that in a few countries. But the entire equilibrium got disturbed because of poor worker health, or health issues rather. Now this is the cycle that is available, this is a cycle that moves along. Good worker health will increase productivity. Better productivity will increase the standard of business competitiveness. Better business competitiveness will record or amount to higher economic development. Higher economic developments means better social well-being and wealth. So when I have more wealth and I'm doing well, right, my well-being, social well-being is assured. What is happening next? The good worker of the health will increase productivity, and this cycle goes on and goes on and on and on. So this is a clear indication of how the health of the worker, or good health of the worker, is the key in the cycle, right? If I remove productivity, the productivity will not be dependent on the worker's health as much as the as much as some other part of it, right? I hope this is clear to you. Let's move forward. This is a study that was done by WHO, and in this study, WHO highlighted that the enterprise and health are related to each other. The enterprise or the business and health are related to each other. For example, if accidents and acute injuries happen at a workplace, the productivity is lost by about 14%. When there is physical health, or when the physical health of the workers is poor, the impact is on the enterprise, or the functioning of the enterprise and the sales of the enterprise, right? Similarly, when the mental health of the workers is poor, there is again an impact on both the on the enterprise as well as the individual itself. I would like to share some other data with you. When you talk about accidents and acute injuries that happen and affect at an enterprise, what are we talking about? In addition to the personal effects, there are so many other economic costs to an enterprise. When someone suffers an acute injury at work and is required to take time away from work, there are many direct and indirect costs to the employer. Now let's take an example. For example, immediate payment to a physician. I mean, somebody gets hurt at your workplace, you have to take them to the hospital. You have to ensure that they get first aid. So that's an expense on your pocket right away. Insurance costs. Many organizations opt for this, many organizations don't opt for this, but this again is a cost, right? So insurance cost is a cost that comes to the enterprise. Interpretation of in productivity immediately following the interruption in productivity immediately following the accident. As I said, if an acute accident happens at a workplace, the productivity of that workplace is lost by about 14% for that day. Personnel and time allocated in investigating and writing up the accident, that's another point. If something happens, there's usually, in many organizations, especially in factory setups, there are committees that are responsible for investigation, right? So the time that they take and the resources that are occupied while they are doing that, that's another cost, right? In case something serious happens, or something happens to that employee, the recruitment and training costs for replacement of workers. Now I remember, that this is a personal experience. I suffered from an accident a couple of years ago, and I had to quit the job from where I was working. And while after I had quit, the person, for the profile that I was working at, they did not hire anybody. Why? Because for that particular profile, they had to, the training and recruitment cost was a little higher. So that cost is again on that, it comes to the enterprise. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about how accidents and acute injuries affect an enterprise, right? Damage to equipments. I fell down, something happened, the equipment got damaged. What is happening? That requires replacement or repair. Reduction in product quality following the accident is less experienced, if less experienced replacement workers are used. Now somebody who comes in, again, this is a factory setting we're talking about. Somebody who's new would again impact the overall functioning of the unit, and the productivity of the unit will go down. An experienced person who was, let's say, working or producing 10 units per hour, with the new person it would probably be 8 units or 7 units. So again, this is a clear reduction in not only quality but also quantity of units of the organization. Reduced productivity of injured workers on modified duties. So in many cases, if somebody is hurt and they're not coming to work, or somebody is not well, they're not coming to work, what is happening? Their shifts are extended, right? They, one person is taking care of the profile and the work responsibilities of two people. So that again, the productivity is hampered. Overhead costs of share capacity maintained in order to absorb the cost of accident. Legal costs, if any. I mean, there are so many costs that will come directly to the employer or to the enterprise. And which means, which now I'm sure you're on the same page with me, that in case of poor health or bad health or accidents or problems that happen at the workplace, the enterprise suffers. And that is why we need to be very cautious about how we can improve the quality or the healthiness of our workplace. The next thing that we'll be talking about is how the physical health of workers affect the enterprise. It is very numerous studies have shown that poor health negatively impacts productivity. uh, about 13% less, because of poor health, the productivity goes down by 13%. In many cases, in many situations, in many industries, good health is considered to be the prime factor for employment. If you're not physically as well as mentally stable, you are not required you cannot join an organization, right? For some certain particular profiles, especially in the army, armed forces, you have to have a level of physical fitness and health. Your health should be fine. So without that, they don't let you join. This is the kind of impact that the physical health of workers have is on the enterprise. The mental health of the workers also affect the enterprise. How does the mental health affect the enterprise? Poor mental health and conflicts between work and family also has a special significant impact on productivity of work, especially related to absenteeism and intent to turnover. People who have anxiety and depression, they are the people who are mostly absent from their work during work hours, or even if they are not physically absent, they are mentally absent, and because of that there's a direct loss in productivity of work. Researchers indicate that workers experiencing high family conflict demonstrate up to 13 times as much absenteeism. This is what I'm trying to highlight, that due to mental health or mental situations and mental ailments of an individual, the enterprise is burdened. So 13 times more absenteeism, which means that if a normal person on a normal day would be absent for one day in 1 year or 1 week or 1 month, somebody with higher family conflict issues would be for about 13 days, which is again alarming already. Creating healthy workplaces. We've understood so far that health plays a very important, very crucial role in the enterprise, for the enterprise, in the working of the enterprise. We've understood many situations. We've heard some statistics. We've heard a lot of things about how important health is with respect to workplaces. Let us talk about creating a healthy workplace. What can I do in order to produce or create better workplaces for my employees, for my organization? As a leader, I mean, it will be my job, it will be my work to create better and healthier workplaces. Number one, I plan as to uh, I plan by identifying the issues that exist within the workplace. The kind of issues that result in mental health issues as well as physical health issues. Are there some instigating factors that result into mental health, depression, and anxiety, other kind of mental health issues, or other physical health issues? I number one, identify that point. I make a plan. I make the management come on the same page as I am. Engage all the other partners, engage everybody else who's a part of the organization. If I'm an employee of the organization, I bring the management on the same page. I bring the workers of that organization on the same page. Now, what I'm trying to do when I'm talking about planning, I'm trying to understand that, for a certain situation, how is it that I can bring the management as well as the workers on the same level, or on the same page, right? What can I do in order to make both of them aware and agree about that situation, or agree about changing that situation, right? For example, there is some factors that is resulting into toxic work environment, right? There's a loss of productivity because there is no happiness at the workplace, right? There is Nobody's enjoying their work, right? So if I'm able to identify the factors, then I would need to make a plan about how do I bring the management as well as the workers on the same page with regards to this particular problem. I will then implement the plan, which is the do part of it. I will see what is the measure that needs to be taken. I will see what agencies can I need to be hired, or what contracts do I need to bring in place. What is the kind of time period that I need to set. So I will implement the plan that I had made with respect to that particular problem. I will also apply checks and filters. Whatever, when I'm planning, I will decide that for this particular problem, when this phase or this situation changes to phase number one, it is a checkpoint for me. Or when it changes from phase number 1 to phase number 2, that is a checkpoint for me. On what parameters is it changing from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3, and so the solution of the problem is happening finally. I will need to identify those points as well. So I will place checks and filters, and finally, what I had planned for versus what I have achieved. When I am clear about what is achieved, I will move on and make an make a policy, or a permanent change in the system of scheme of things, right? So I start with planning, I implement, I check, and finally act. When I say act, it means I make that a permanent change in my organization, right? So that is how you can create healthy workplaces. Number one, I plan. When I'm planning, I am trying to investigate, I'm trying to finalize what is the cause that is that is instigating certain physical as well as mental health issues. I implement the plan, I place check and filters, and finally I make that change a permanent change in the organization. An academic report from 2014 suggests that the intervention should take a three-pronged approach. We will be, these are some standard procedures that are suggested in order to bring about the change that we are talking about, right? So if I want to remove a physical certain factor that is resulting into certain situations, what is it that I can do? We number one, protect mental health by reducing work related risk factors. If there are certain work related risk factors, for example, insecurity of job, what can I do in order to reduce this particular work related factor. When I'm reducing it, I'm protecting the mental health of my employees. Number two, promote mental health by developing positive aspects of work and strengthen strengths the strengths of employees. What do I talk about more? What do I highlight more? Or what strategy do I play? I ensure that the strengths of the employees are highlighted. The good works, their achievements are highlighted, and a positive aspect of working together or working for your organization is always in the view of every employee of your organization. So how do I promote mental health? Number one, I protect mental health. Number two, I promote mental health by developing a positive aspect of work and health and the strengths of the employee. Finally, I address mental health problems regardless of cause. The cost can be huge or the cost can be very little, but what I'm doing is I need to make sure that these mental health problems are uh, addressed then and there. The World Economic Forum highlights steps an organization can take to create a healthy work environment or a healthy workplace, including awareness of the workplace environment and how it can be adapted to promote better mental health for different employees. I need to these are just some steps. Let me help you understand it if you're not following them. I need to make my employees or my people more aware about a better workplace environment. So, because as I said, when we are planning, we need to make sure that our workers, our employees are on the same page. So, we are trying to make them aware of what a good workplace environment is, learning from motivations of organizational leaders and employees who have taken action. I use examples. I use the example of certain organization for my employees, that look, that organization is following this particular action, and that is a motivation for the other employees in my organization. Not reinventing wheels by being aware of what other companies who have taken action have done. Again, I'm although I'm trying to motivate, but my agenda is not to change my own process of things, right? I'm not reinventing the my own organizational wheel. I'm not trying to do something absolutely new and different. I'm using motivation. I'm using new things, new examples, but I'm not using implying them in my organization. What happens many a times is, if I see some organization doing something extraordinarily good, I would think that, okay, this is what I should also do. But that is not right? That is not a right approach. The World Economic Forum says that reinventing the wheel for your organization is not the right approach, right? You use examples, you motivate your employees, but you don't have to go through that process, right? Understanding the opportunities and needs of individual employees in helping to develop better policies for workplace mental health. Again, every individual is different, their needs are different. While they come into your organization, they're expected to uh, you know grow in that mindset or develop that mindset of the organization that has a positive impact on the organization, that carries the value of the organization. But having said that, you and I, we would clearly understand that it is not always that it happens so, right? Very few employees who come and work with us actually share the same kind of mindset as the organization. We need to take the opportunity to understand every employee and make every employee comfortable in that workplace, in our workplace. We By providing things and by providing what they need rather than what we have, what we give, right? So that is the approach that we need to take. We become aware of sources and support where people can find them. We create awareness about sources and support where people can find them. For a very small example for this is having a grievance redressal committee in your organization, a committee for sexual harassment. So these are things that, people, if they're aware about, they are sure that, okay, I am supposed to have a solution. So now let's do an activity. We will analyze your workplace. We list 5 ways in which you can improve your workplace to be a healthier workplace, both mentally and physically. And in order and while you're doing so, you will support these points by reason as why this will impact the productivity of your workplace. For example, if I'm saying that I can change the chairs of my of the faculties where they sit in the seating area, how will this affect the productivity of the workplace? It's very simple. I'm sure while you're thinking, you would be able to come up with many such examples. What I want from you is just five, okay? And while you're doing these 5 things, we'll quickly understand that the fact that when you talk about uh, employees, when you talk about workers, when you talk about physical health, it's very important, it's very crucial that you maintain the best standards of a healthy workplace in order to ensure that the highest productivity is attained, right? A happy mind is a happy you, and a happy you is a more productive you. The WHO organization, the World Health Organization, has suggested 4 avenues of influence. When we talk about 4 avenues of influence, we are talking about 4 key areas that you can think about improving or working upon within your organization. Number one, the physical environment. What is the physical environment made up of? How is the AC working? How is the seating arrangement in your organization? How closely you're sitting, or how optimally you're seated? Is it crammed up? What is the how broad is the gallery in your institution? What is the size of the door? So the physical environment, right? Is there enough lighting for the participants? This is one of the avenues that will influence your workplace, that will influence productivity at your workplace. The personal health resources, for every individual, are they provided, or are they given, or do they have access to personal health resources? What is the interaction between the enterprise and the community? What is the involvement of the enterprise and the community? Wherever your enterprise is, wherever your business is, how is it interacting with the community? Is there a relation? Is there not a relation? If there is a relation, great, this is a positive point. If there is not a if there is no connection, relation between the enterprise and the community, I think there is something that we can work upon. Then comes psychosocial work environment. These are the 4 avenues of influence. When you talk about psychosocial, these are the metaphysical, or the very crucial parts, the psychological issues of work, the mental health, the mental issues of the work environment. What is the kind of competitiveness? Is there job satisfaction? Is there do people feel safe working in your organization? Do they see themselves growing in your organization? So these are the 4 avenues of influence that the WHO recommends for organizations to work upon, right? So with that, we have come to the end of the health issue. We will now be talking about habit. There's a famous quote by Brian Tracy, that successful people are simply those with successful habits. What does that mean? That if I'm a successful person, it is because of my successful habits. And if I don't have the right successful habits, there are chances that I will not be a successful person. It's very simple. We will only be talking about successful people. We are not going to talk about good habits and bad habits. I think that is not a question that needs to be answered right now in this particular session. We will talk about habits that help us become better in our productivity. So what we were talking so far, when we are talking about health, so far we are talking about health of an organization that impacts the productivity of the organization, health of the workers that impact the productivity of the organization, the mental health, the physical health, the all the environmental factors. How does it impact the productivity of at an organization? What we are talking about now are personal productivity factors. What are those habits that can help me increase my productivity better? Habits are rituals and behaviors that we perform automatically, allowing us to carry out essential activities and following the same routes every day without thinking about them. Somebody said that about habits, that habits are the energy saving parts of our daily work, right? We don't have to think about doing certain things, right? For example, if I know I need to brush my teeth, I don't have to think about it in the morning. I don't have to wake up and make a decision about it. Do I brush my teeth today or not? Do I iron my clothes today or not? Do I take a shower today or not? These are habits, right? These are some certain things that we do. These are rituals, these are behaviors, these are parts of a behavior that we observe, and it doesn't require special energy in order to accomplish them, right? So moving forward, what are the habits of some leaders? So while I was doing some research, I came to know about certain very interesting habits of certain business leaders. I'm going to read it out for you, and you can probably follow it somewhere. So Steve Jobs, he has a habit of, he would cry in quiet for at a number of instances when he's writing, when he's thinking. He has this habit of that he would start crying. Mr. The president of the United States of America, he's very conscious about germs, so he would keep keep cleaning or using the sanitizer. And Mr. Bill Gates sits on a rocking chair. So what he does is he just relaxes and sits down and just thinks, and thinks about newer ideas. These are habits. I've also heard about Elon Musk. He wakes up at 3:30 in the morning. There's another film actor by the name of Mark Wahlberg. He wakes up at 3:45 in the morning, and these are habits about successful people, and they that is how they characterize their success, or they credit their success to certain habits of theirs. So these are just some examples that I use for your reference. I want to highlight what we have realized as an organization, that there are these simple habits that you need to have that will have help you better or improve your performance. Number one, setting goals. How is it different than qualities of an entrepreneur? When you say qualities of an entrepreneur, you talk about goal setting as a quality, or one of the characteristics of an entrepreneur is that he sets goal. So, like, coming back to the very definition of habits are some things that you perform automatically. Like, you don't have to think about doing them. You don't have to make conscious efforts about doing them. So when you talk about goal setting, setting should be an unconscious habit of yours, right? So this is how much this is how long I should take to finish this particular task. This is the minimum amount, or this is the maximum amount of time that I will take in order to reach from one place to another. So what am I doing? I am, for everything that I'm doing, for every activity, for every act that I'm doing, I'm setting goals. That is a habit for me, right? Within this time frame, with this quality, with this level of quality, I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to run 4 laps within 10 minutes. I don't know if that's even possible. Not for me, but yeah, for many people, yes. So what am I going to do? uh, I'm setting goals, constantly setting goals for everything that I do. That is one of the habits that helps me improve my performance. So once I am clear about what my goal is, I know which direction to go in. The second habit, which I believe is very important, is respecting timelines. So not only respecting timelines, but also being punctual. So when I say respecting timeline, means that if I've been given a work, if I've been given an assignment, I need to know that, okay, this is the timeline and I'm going to finish it up by this time, and then only I'll engage in something else. I would be punctual. I will go there, be there. If I'm going in for an interview, I'll reach 5 minutes prior, or this is I will follow up on that timeline, or for that particular assignment, in a very planned manner, right? I will respect the timelines. I will have due respect to when the work needs to be finished. Planning. When we talk about planning, how is planning as a habit different than planning as a quality? When you say planning as a quality implies that your ability to make a good plan or not a good plan, right? To make an effective plan or an ineffective plan. Planning, on the other hand, as a habit means that whatever you do, you already, your mind, your brain makes a plan around it, right? For example, if I have to wake up in the morning and go for a run, I will ensure that I have a plan around it, right? For every day, I have a plan around it. Uh, I sleep for 6 hours, and after that, I wake up. This how am I doing that? I am making a plan prior to that, right? How do I get a 6 hour sleep? How do I, what time do I eat? What time do I sleep? What time do I do the other chores that I need to do? What am I doing? I'm just making a plan. I'm in general making a plan. This plan can be very effective, this plan cannot be effective at all, but what I'm doing in general, I'm making a plan. So this should be a habit. Planning should be a habit rather than a quality. And the next thing that we come to is seeking guidance. It's okay to seek guidance. Rather, it's a very good practice that many successful entrepreneurs do. They seek guidance from their mentors. They seek guidance from people who are experts in their particular field of business. They seek guidance, and with the due guidance, they move on to making better or achieving much better. Next, we aim to win. What does that mean? It means that when I perform a task, my aim, my objective should be that I have to win and not just get by. I have to win. My attitude should be towards, inclined towards winning rather than completing. So aim should be to win, not to complete, right? So if I am aiming to win, I will definitely do much better than somebody who's aiming to complete a task. Or even for that case, when I'm aiming to complete a task, will be very, a very minimal performance compared to when I'm aiming to win. My entire body, my entire psychology towards that particular task will be, a particular assignment will be completely different as compared to when I'm only planning to complete certain things, right? The next thing is we share our thoughts, we share our ideas, we talk, we share feedback, we share technology, we share our material. So the idea is, the habit is that we need to have that habit of sharing things. We share everything that we need to. Take breaks. It's very important while you're working. Taking breaks is one of the best habits that all successful entrepreneurs have. They take a 5 minute break, they take a 5 minute breather, they take a couple of hours to, just go back, recuperate, and then do something new, right? Then reward yourself. Again, very important. Whatever you're achieving, keep rewarding yourself. That keeps you up and motivated. So this was about habits, and how certain habits can help you increase your goal. Right now, what we'll do is we'll quickly think about some habits that you can work upon, right? For example, how do you think setting goals can become a part of your habits, right? Or how do you think that planning should become a part of your habits? How do you think how that rewarding yourself can become a part of your habits? We'll just think about it and quickly move forward. Now we talk about hygiene. This is going to be very simple for us to understand with the entire COVID situation. We understand that COVID has taught us a lot about hygiene. Everybody is talking about hygiene. MHA for the past 2.5 months has been constantly issuing guidelines one after another, that this is the minimum standard of hygiene that needs to be observed. This is the minimum standard of hygiene that needs to be observed. Lockdown 4.0 or lockdown 5.0, unlock 1.0. So number of issues about hygiene, number of guidelines about hygiene in simple words is how clean you are, or the cleanliness that you observe at work. I'll very quickly run you through how you can improve hygiene at work. Number one, have sanitizers. Now this is what I've tried to bring here is a blend of the traditional hygiene points plus what is relevant in the COVID-19 scenario right now, right? Have sanitizers in your organization, place them at the right places, at the point of entry and the point of exit. Have Carry a sanitizer in your pocket. Sanitizer have become a very integral part of our hygiene system now, right? So for your organization also, for your enterprise also, make sure that there are enough sanitizers at the right places. Set up a schedule for your entire hygiene cycle, right? So there has to be a schedule at what time should the cleaning happen, and within how much time should that cleaning happen, and then what is the next step of in the cleaning process, and what is the third step to it, and how long these processes take. Now a proper schedule, like the same way that you organize your day, you can organize or schedule the entire process of hygiene maintenance within your system. You set up a garbage disposal system. Important in the sense that the government is also talking about it. The biodegradable and the non-biodegradable waste disposal system has to be observed, should be observed. It is beneficial for you as an organization. It will definitely improve hygiene at your workplace. Then we talk about ensuring your communal areas are cleaned. Wherever you're eating, your seating areas, your lounges and your dining rooms should be clean, which means that, as I said in the second point, we talked about having a schedule. These areas should be scheduled for cleaning more frequently compared to others. Fifth, we educate your employees. You educate your employees about how to improve hygiene at work, personal hygiene as well as workplace hygiene. If your employees are ready, if your employees are educated about that, then there is no issue at all. The one of the biggest problems that the this faces in terms of resistance is that people are not aware. They're not educated about what hygiene is and how hygiene is to be observed at workplace. Then we set a zone for eating and smoking. I'm sure most of you, in many organizations, there are no separate zones, areas for smoking, but there are separate zones for eating, which is very important. Maintain hygiene evaluation. So there has to be standards to your hygiene the cycle, right? So what is the minimum standard of that you expect in terms of your organization being observing hygiene as a system, right? What are the checks and measures that you are taking, that you are placing? You address hygiene problems quickly. You don't wait for them, you address for them. Finally, social distancing, which is the most acceptable norm of hygiene right now. Maintain at least 6 feet or 2 meters of distance between two individuals. You can place your seating area in such a way, you can place your employees in such a way that they are socially distant from each other. Now these are some things that will help you improve your hygiene. We've discussed about how important the health of the organization or the workers is to the organization, to the enterprise. What is the role of habits? What are the habits that can help you become successful and more productive at work? And then finally, how you can improve your hygiene at work. So with that, thank you so much.